Hello and welcome to this episode of Women in Retail Talks. This episode features an interview originally recorded by Women in Retail Leadership Circle's sister brand, Total Retail, and published on the Total Retail Talks podcast. Total Retail's executive editor, Joe Keenan, interviews Amar, Senior Manager of Global Social Media and Influencer Relations at ALDO Group, a fashion footwear and accessories retailer. Listen in as Amar discusses how ALDO is leveraging user-generated content and social influencers to help market its brand and products, driving customer acquisition and engagement. And now, on to the show.
Thanks for joining me, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.
So let's kind of jump right into the conversation. I talk a little bit about how ALDO is using user-generated content. So the question here is, why is ALDO Group placed a priority in acquiring user-generated content?
For sure. So UGC to us is the most authentic and trusted form of marketing today. While it's important for a brand to have their big glossy campaigns and more curated content for a brand point of view, customers more than ever want to be inspired and see real people. So the same way written reviews, let's say for a vacation that you're planning, are so critical in making a purchase decision today, UGC is kind of your inspirational and hyper-visual product and brand reviews in a sense. So that's why it's so important for every single piece of content or collaboration that we publish to be authentic, even if it is paid. So that ambassadorship has to be true. We let our ALDO crew do the talking for us in those instances, and we love getting inspired by how they style our product.
So let's talk about the different types of user-generated content that ALDO is currently collecting, and then kind of a second part to that question is, what's the process like in terms of trying to acquire that content? How are you asking your customers to submit this?
Absolutely. So I'd say we have three major streams of UGC style content. The way in which we work with that is there's really the secured ongoing content programs. So those, when we say secured, those are paid programs. And then we have gifting programs and events. So within our secured gifting programs, these are always on for us. We work with an agency to ensure that we're securing a certain number of pieces of content, and our social posts are based on hero styles that we know that we need to be publishing and speaking about through our various channels. With these programs, we have a minimum reach. We provide some light visual briefing to the talent so we can kind of give a bit of a direction, whether it's a product close-up or if we want a full styled look for contextualization based on our whole content mix and calendar. And that way we can also ensure with these guaranteed programs that we hit these key KPIs and needs for the brand. But then with gifting programs, these are simply a surprise and delight, and we love to work with talent who we've either had a relationship existing and we just want to kind of nurture that relationship, or new talent that we're eager to work with. So while social posts are definitely not a guarantee with pure play gifting programs, we found this ongoing gifting program to be greatly beneficial. So more often than not, talent are happy and eager to post and see the greater and longer term benefit of that. It's a great opportunity for both us and the talents to test the collaboration in the mind of both sets of fans and see how they respond. And that can kind of inform whether or not it makes sense for us to do a much larger scale collaboration. And lastly, I'd say our events are pretty major for us. They're always produced in a way to be very socially minded, to be brand immersive, and to be truly what content dreams and backdrops are made of. There's a lot of attention to detail, and this allows both ourselves and the talent we invite to create beautiful content in a socially native environment.
So we've talked a little bit about kind of the ask and the source for your user-generated content. I'm interested now in kind of the internal processes at ALDO in terms of getting this content ready for production, getting it published. Can you walk us through a little bit about terms of reviewing the content, kind of determining what you're going to use, what may be appropriate, what's inappropriate, and then ultimately getting it published in all these different channels that you talked about, whether it's an ALDO group brand website, social media page, other types of digital campaigns. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the internal process for production.
Absolutely. So, I mean, once given that there's been briefing, or even in the case that there hasn't been briefing, I mean, there's always beautiful pieces of content that come through regardless. How we're selecting the content that we're actually publishing to any of our various channels, I'd say like overall aesthetics. So the image needs to fit within our feed with respect to color palette, image quality, overall composition. So these are all things that we're looking at. Content buckets is a big thing for us as well. So knowing content types that best reside with our fans. So we need to ensure that we have a mix of like product close-ups, full style contextual looks, as we mentioned earlier, really what's going to kind of resonate. And we know that there's an appropriate balance of each. The content creator themselves, so who they are and do their values align with our brand, that's something that we always want to ensure. And that kind of goes more so on the end where we're tagged in a piece of content. It's not been actually sourced by us because at that point we've already vetted the talent. Diversity is also key for us. So ALDO is actually present in 100 plus countries around the globe, and we need to ensure that we're properly representing all of our markets while ensuring that we appropriately celebrate any of the cultural intricacies across these markets. So we don't want to offend anybody, but we also want to make sure that we're really highlighting key moments that are happening around the globe with our international ALDO crew.
So it seems like this is quite a far-reaching task and process. So
there is a lot of thought that goes into each and every piece of content we select, absolutely, and when it's being used. So
yeah, so that kind of leads me to think, for context, what kind of scope of this are we looking at? How many people are working in this within your team, and then how much interaction and how much content are you collecting from your customers, if you're able to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're tagged right now in anywhere between like 1,200 and 1,500 pieces of content a day. With that said, of what we can actually use on our channels, it's a smaller percentage, of course, but we still love to be tagged in all this amazing content that our True Blue fans are, posting, tagging of us. In terms of ongoing, like secured influencer posts, probably anywhere between, it really depends on what the collection launch is and how much priority that is for our business and in terms of our key messages, but probably another 50 to 60 pieces of content a month guaranteed, so that we make sure, we have those pieces for our channels and we have that reach. So yeah, that's pretty much the mix. So it's really just sorting through that. We've used some tools to help us in kind of collecting and refining the content that we're using. But we have a small team, but small but mighty.
Do you fall sort of under the marketing umbrella? Are you kind of off on your own? Is this a kind of a standalone team? How does it work structure-wise?
We run under brand, and within brand there's marketing, I guess you would say. So within marketing, there's multiple teams. So we have our brand development teams, we have our brand commercialization teams, we have our PR and social teams, which is where we fall under. But we're working very, very closely with all teams throughout the business to ensure, including product development teams. Product category is also something we have to make sure that we're properly reflecting in all of our posts based on our business splits. So there's categories, subcategories. So, we also have male and female. We have accessories, handbags, and footwear. So just making sure that we have that split and that we're meeting with those teams to ensure that we're properly reflecting what it is that we need to be on our channels.
So obviously a lot to consider. And then this leads into my next question about, okay, you've got a piece of content, it's gone through this kind of approval process, it's ready to go. Maybe you can talk a little bit about kind of the thought process around, okay, how are we going to utilize this piece of UGC? Are we going to put it on site? Does it go on, a social channel? And if we're going to go to social, does it go to Instagram? Does it go to Facebook? Does it go to some other channel? Talk a little bit about how you're leveraging UGC, determining which channel specific, and then maybe is there an example or two of types of UGC campaigns that you're recently have run that you're proud of?
Absolutely. So, we definitely use UGC in multiple channels, including social media primarily, but as well in newsletters, on our website, on FanReel, which is powered by Curate, in some cases in paid media amplification if we secured those rights. Most recently in an editorial page, which has been newly built out on our website. So the page is similar to like a blog style, not too many words, just like short and sweet 500 kind of word write up, but with a lot of visual inspiration that speaks to key moments and messages for the brand. It's informed by consumer insights and like SEO research on what topics our customers will most want to hear about and are searching, and how that relates back to fashion and our product offering. So that's a big one. In terms of recent campaigns and how there were various kind of assets in a briefing, we recently launched ALDO Kids, which is really exciting for our brand, and we knew we had to have kind of a big coming out. So within that, while we were working with multiple talents, there were specific talents that we did work with to create a multitude of different types of UGC. So whether that was video content, long form content for a Pinterest, or especially kind of formatted for an Instagram feed. We really catered that to each one of our channels, so built out more of an in-depth brief with each one of these talents. So that was something that was pretty cool for us, and we had a lot of success with.
Yeah, that's great. And we're going to talk about kind of those talents and influencers in a minute here. My final question in terms of the UGC aspect of the conversation is, if you're going to list off some of the primary benefits that ALDO has seen from its use of user-generated content, what would those be?
I'd say primarily, and there are so many, but primarily it's really like reach and scale, helping to bring our customers in their discovery journey to the top of the funnel. So allowing them to both discover us as well as feel trusting based on the style endorsement of somebody they've opted to follow and see as aspirational.
Are you, in terms of driving that reach and scale, able to accurately track back and measure traffic that's generated from these different types of user-generated content initiatives?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is something that we're always tracking. Where we see like traffic is definitely one of the main KPIs, whereas revenue, I would say, is less so. So like I said, it's really about bringing them into the funnel and having them even consider or learn about the brand. And that's the way that we see UGC to be best used. Not to say that there can't be those fringe benefits, but it's really primarily focused on that traffic driving piece. So for sure, if we're securing work with talents, we'll always provide them like a bit.ly and something that we can track through our Google Analytics, as well as we do have tools set up for us to help us really kind of track that user journey. But for the most part, like I said, it's really about that reach and scale.
So moving into the kind of the second portion of our conversation, where we're going to talk a little bit about ALDO's use of social influencers. So I'm interested in that particular marketing channel and why it's been, in your opinion, why it's been effective for the company.
Yeah, well, I mean, we let our ALDO crew, who's our community of influencers and ambassadors, we let them do the talking for us in these instances. So we love getting inspired by how they style their product. As a result, we see higher engagement and in many cases sales from this content. So it provides styling contextualization that's relatable. I think that's the biggest thing. And I would argue reassurance to a customer who may not have thought that they knew how to style a certain product. It gives them kind of an idea of, okay, I can wear this with this. Like maybe I like this style, but it's a little unusual for me. It's not my style archetype, but hey, she's paired it with a pair of, great, just basic jeans and a white t-shirt. And that's how I can wear those really wild python high heels. Mm-hmm. So that's been great for us.
So you mentioned the ALDO crew, and how about in terms of evaluating who's right for that? What are some of the things that at ALDO that you're looking at to determine, this is a person that we want to be one of the faces of our brands. We want them to be kind of an ambassador for our brand. What are some of the criteria, parameters that you're evaluating?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is something that we've really had to refine over the last few years, but certainly beyond brand fit, genuine ambassadorship has always been king. So while sometimes endorsements are pay to play, we don't want to work with just anybody who doesn't genuinely love our product and the brand. So even if they're the hottest influencer in the fashion game, it's integral for our brand and theirs that the collaboration actually be genuine. But aside from that, we've refined our processes around vetting, and our investment has increased. So at first pass, we'll definitely vet baseline metrics like channel growth, their demographics, geographics, engagement, any vanity metrics, as well as look at kind of their uptick and how they're trending overall. We also dig into the values of the talent with as much information that's available to us. So especially with those larger endorsements, there's usually a lot more kind of media outlets and related articles that we can kind of check out and make sure that that person is in line with our brand DNA and as well with our morals and values. But with that said, there's always special cases where we've opted to work with a talent who seemingly has aligned values, strong social following, and have performed super well on our channel, but ended up being incredibly difficult to work with. So in those cases, I think every brand's probably come across instances like this. So, and in those cases, we'll just absolutely not re-engage with that type of influencer. It's so important for us, like I said, that it's a genuine alignment and ambassadorship. Otherwise, fans really see right through it.
Yeah.
So that's been really important to us. But we've discovered it's so much more important not just to look at likes, follower counts, and all of these vanity metrics when measuring influencers, because those are very broad things and they can be faked at the end of the day. So that's why it's been so important for us to invest in additional tools and services which help us to understand the health of the potential collaborator's account, as well as to have open and transparent relationship with the influencer, where they actually share these keen insights not available based on API blockages and such.
Yeah. That culture fit, that you talk about, that's so important. It's almost akin to bringing on talent and hiring talent. You really need to go through that thorough vetting process, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And we've learned the hard way. That's why we were refined.
So then let's talk about kind of the types of campaigns that you're partnering with these social influencers for. Is it, product releases, maybe sales, store openings? Talk a little bit about, the types of campaigns that you're getting your social influencers involved with.
I mean, it's really grown. It's more and more. It used to kind of originally, when we got started and really started investing in influencer marketing like 3 years ago, I would say it was like really focused on product releases. But now we've discovered that there's so much more storytelling that can happen with various talents. So sales, I would say much less so. It's much more about that kind of brand elevation or brand communication messaging. So definitely around product releases, key messages. Like I said earlier, now tapping into different channels and using them for their blogging and writing abilities to be able to help us kind of populate and give style contextualization on our blog that lives within our website. I can't say too much just yet, but we are working on some really interesting product collaborations with some key talent and capsule collections. So there's so many ways in which you can be collaborating with talent, and the best way to really test that is to start small and build up a relationship and really see, sometimes these things get inspired just from seeing all the other capabilities that these content creators have a lot of the time. Sometimes they're photographers or they actually have a hand in design. There's so many, facets in which you can kind of leverage the great work that they do.
Are there particular channels that you're kind of more embedded in? Is it primarily Instagram and Pinterest, the two examples you've already mentioned? Are there other channels, social channels, that you try to look for social influencers in?
Absolutely. I mean, YouTube's become a big priority for our brand, and that's something that we've started to really push off the ground this year. It's definitely a very different space. Price points are very different when working with YouTubers, but we've seen that there's such a high engagement piece and an opportunity for our brand to be there. So that's definitely something that we're starting to take off the ground, and just knowing how important video content's become on all social channels, including Instagram via stories and IGTV. So that's where, like, within our briefings and our hub and hero content, we're really briefing in that portion to be able to kind of check the boxes for all channels and make sure that we're refining our content based on the channel's best practices. So yeah, absolutely, that's a big one for us.
So when looking at the effectiveness of not only a channel but an influencer themselves, what are the metrics you're looking at to determine, okay, this is somebody that we want to continue working with, this is somebody that might not be the right fit? What are some of the things that you're keeping an eye on to determine, how successful a partnership is?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that really depends on what the collaboration entails. But each and every one has a unique set of objectives. But I'd say the KPIs that really overlap between all campaigns, no matter what the channel or kind of what the scope of work, are typically reach, engagement, fan growth, and traffic to our website. But it would, like said, like if that lives within our website, obviously it's a little different. It's not traffic from within, it's maybe a click through at that point. So it really depends kind of where that content piece is living.
And then my final question, Amanda, is do you have any advice that you might be able to offer for other retailers and brands that might want to test influencer marketing, haven't yet started with this, but see it as something that could be an opportunity for them? What words of advice might you have for them?
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I'd say the number one thing people take for granted is the engagement piece with their fans, and not just the influencers fans, but the thousands of followers that are following you themselves. So it's from the micro tier to the tippy top of the pyramid where you're at like a celebrity level. Make sure that engagement piece is always on, and really check back to see like how is it performing on their channel as well as yours. Does it make sense for both of your brands and your audiences? Another thing I would say that would be incredible, especially for brands who don't necessarily have the budget for larger endorsements, is gifting programs like I mentioned earlier. So it's just making sure that you're getting your product into the hands of the talents that you're hoping to work with, and giving them an opportunity to genuinely fall in love with your product. It's not guaranteed, like we said, that they'll post about it, but it's a great way to kind of vet their interest in your brand, and give them that opportunity or that unboxing experience that's really true to your brand and allow them to feel your brand DNA. So I'd say those are kind of the biggest things. And like we said earlier, the authenticity piece, like don't sell out just because somebody has 5 million followers on Instagram. If that person's not the right fit or isn't morally sound, it's really just not worth it.
Yeah, as you said, the customers are kind of see through that they really, they can tell something if something's not on brand, that, it's not worth the effort and the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Amanda Amar of ALDO for joining me today. Thanks for joining me, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at wirlc.com/podcast for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.